Greetings to all in the name of equal justice. I got a little story to tell you. Some of it is about me, some of it is about the broken system, and some of it is about how we all here can motivate other people to join us in this struggle for equal justice for all. My name is Harold Wilson. In 1989, I was sentenced to the death penalty for 3 murders. I spent 17 years in Pennsylvania's jails. Most of that time was on death row before I was exonerated after DNA testing. Being sentenced to death 3 times, I sat in shock through my whole. It sent a shock through my whole body, from my toes to the top of my head. It took my breath away, and I went into shock. 3 death sentences for 3 murders. None of this sunk in until 3 or 4 weeks after, and then it invaded my whole body. Execution would be electrocution. The thought of being given 3 death sentences for 3 murders was unbearable. How could I possibly die 3 times for 3 murders I did not commit? How was it possible to kill me 3 times by electrocution? I was put on death row and learned how to survive by being physical, spiritual, and keeping my mind on the reality of life. Thinking of my loved ones, the good memories of the past. I got by thinking of holidays, the kind you cannot enjoy on Pennsylvania's death row. I was frequently held in solitary confinement for extended amounts of time. In 1999, after a decade or so on death row, my death sentence was overturned due to constitutional ineffective assistance of counsel, a court-appointed trial counsel. I was never taken off of death row. I remained on death row even when I went to court. Even though my sentence was overturned, I remained on death row with the other condemned inmates. It was during a spell in solitary confinement when I got a notice from my attorney that my death sentence was overturned. I was in a restricted housing unit at the time, serving a 30-day disciplinary time for disobeying a direct order. I was protecting myself from the freezing cold temperatures. The practice of using cold as a punishment was to numb and stupefy the condemned, putting them into shock, a sickly shock. A sickly shock state, so we would depend on the state's institutional medical department. The death row prisoners unit was made extremely cold. I covered my vent like any other human being would do, and that was not allowed. It was so cold I could scrape ice from the inside of my window. I slept in all my clothes they gave me. I could not wash as the temperature was unbearable. The clothes issued were 2 pants, 2 shirts, and 1 summer jacket, 1 top and bottom thermal, and socks. To this day, I still suffer those pains in my bones and other medical problems, including poor eyesight due to the severe cold and the lack of sunshine and fresh air and exercise. Most prisoners had cable TV and radios, and these were major tools meant to pacify inmates. To lose these items were unthinkable. I, however, refused them. Pacifies because what was important to me was the reason why I was there. I never had anything to take away. They gave me the opportunity. I never gave them the opportunity to dehumanize me. The lead prosecutor in that trial was Jack McMahon, a former district attorney who had a training video showing him advising new prosecutors. How to keep poor African Americans and smart people off juries, as they were less likely to convict. The videotape was leaked to the media and my attorneys. Thus, during the evidentiary hearing, the video was produced, and it was found that Jack McMahon had used racial bias in my case. My second trial ended in a mistrial, and I went for a third trial in 2005. Here, defense attorneys presented DNA evidence for the first time, and the evidence proved my innocence. On October 15th, 2005, I was acquitted, then released from the prison. I signed the release papers at 9:30 at night in the Philadelphia County Jail, and they gave me 65 cents and a bus token. I could not leave in the state-issued brown prison clothing, so I was given a blue winter jacket and a black trash bag full of my personal and legal papers. I left the prison by the back door while my family was waiting for me at the front door of the building. Are we truly a society of peace? Should we turn the other cheek and go the second mile? Or say, you kill us and our society will kill you? I do not think there is a simple answer to that question, but your voice do matter. Thank you all again for coming out and sharing solidarity and support, being the voices of the voiceless. May my Creator's mercy and peace and grace always keep you and yours in His safety. My name is Harold Wilson. I'm a crime victim and the 122nd death row survivor in the U.S. I am a member of Witness to Innocence, still striving to make a difference in 2005. Thank you for listening to my story. You know, I spent a lot of times just trying to forget. I spent a lot of times marching. I spent a lot of time speaking. But the time when it will all end is when we can get the Supreme Court justices to look down on the exonerated and say no more pain and no more punishment. As I stand here today, I represent a witness to innocence. And I say no more killing in my name. Thank you for it.
Questions for Harold? Questions?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Susie Graham.
I just want to ask a question. You had a personal experience by being on the Supreme Death Row. My personal relationship with other prisoners, especially Will, was something today.
Well, my personal experience on Pennsylvania death row was painful. Not for my innocence, but just to witness, just to be a witness to the pain and suffering of others. You know, I was in a prison, and I believe it was Huntington, Pennsylvania's death row. It was like a colonial jail cell. You know, raccoons, anything could come in your cell at night. And the doors was like, the bars were like square, colonial, antique type bars, but the bars were also manufactured so they can be, the door will just open up and you just step in. And at that time, what is his name? Stephen Preston took up a lawsuit because the conditions of confinement was really, really whack. I mean, the Screaming Tiger, you know, I could still, you know, once Mumia told me, say, you know something, fat boy, when we get out of here, we gonna always remember this. I said, how you know that? When we say, we gonna always remember what went on here. And to say his name and he's still suffering and subjected to a greater penalty than what was bared in the 23 years of his incarceration. And I just can't say enough about him, but I'm just fed up with the way things are being handled, because you can't get nothing done by the same people that's stepping on your neck, the same people that rally and change policies for you to seek your death. You know, so I took on the pain and suffering of those who was around me. And I suffered more than the actual penalty of death. But I still did not give up my struggle. And I learned the policies and the procedures of the institution. I learned how to apply pardons, consolidated statutes to my death row confinement. I learned how to use the grievance procedure, and I learned how to use the courts to get things done. But you know, when you use the courts and the grievance procedures, there's also you also have to be big enough and strong enough to go through what's going to come after the ink has dried and the paperwork has been denied. And this is why I didn't have a TV and radio, because they couldn't take nothing from me. I wasn't addicted on cigarettes. I wasn't addicted on coffee, TVs, radio. You know, only thing you can do to me is move me somewhere else and give me my legal box of legal stuff and a phone call to my attorneys, and that was it. That was it. But the suffering, the pain and suffering, I learned how to litigate from a death row inmate, Roger Buell. He has a life sentence now. Mumia Abu-Jamal, who is very sick, and we need to do what we can to reach out to his family and those who advocate to bring him home. I mean, I don't want to say dead or alive, but just bring him home. Just bring him home. This fight and this fast and this vigil for justice is some other kind of way that we need to get to the Supreme Court via emails, petitions. It's something that has to be done. It's something that we're not doing. Our hands are tied, and we stumble year after year, because we got, 154 exonerees now. I'm the 122nd. Hey, is something wrong with that? 22nd, and you still don't get it right? I'm going to live with the conditions of my confinement for the rest of my days on earth. I do what's right. I try to do what's right. I take the little bit what I'm given in life. I take the little knowledge that I have so I can keep a decent place to sleep. I strive and fast so I can not be greedy to not just myself, but so I can also continue to give to others. Is there any more questions? Suja Graham, I answered your question, and you ran out on me. Yes, Tim.
Was there any prosecutorial misconduct in your case?
Prosecutor misconduct. That's the Jack McMahon training tape. Racial discrimination in the jury selection. My third trial, it was the second trial. It was a mistrial. The district attorney had misused the court's order, abused the court's order as far as what evidence would not be used. Again, prosecutors, they have this, what they call immunity. Nothing's done. And I'm not accepting any apologies, so I guess they realize that because they haven't offered none. And I'm in my 10th year anniversary. Any other questions? Questions 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Hey.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
I just have a question about your opinion on life without the possibility of parole for youth as well as adults. I'm not for life without the possibility.
Neither am I. Neither am I. So that's another thing we got to work on, because life in prison is the death penalty. Okay, you got what, a million people incarcerated, and you're not going to get adequate medical treatment. It's hard for me to get adequate medical treatment out here in society. I'm not for life without parole. I'm for life as long as you do. I'm for parole as long as you do the right thing. Whether you can get a life sentence, but you're going to have to build a statute, or the legislator's going to have to amend the statute where inmates can go in the same thing we do out here. These halfway houses and exonerees are not, they don't own up to be a part of halfway houses. Okay, so we don't get them perps. But the same thing the inmates have to do after incarceration in these what they call reentry programs. You do all that in prison. You know, you do all that in prison and do what's right, family training, job searching, resume building. You go to school, you get your degrees. They don't even want you to go to school no more in prison. You know, you used to can get a degree or a master's or something. They don't even want you to have that. So you're just there to die. You know, to play ball, to watch TV, watch the one-eyed monster, the idiot box I call it. And I guess they got typewriters now. You know, so whoever you write to, that's not private. You know, so it's an in and out. But the process for life without parole, it sucks, in my point of view. You know, that's human beings just rotting away. You got people that went in bad, and they have re-established themselves to do good, not just for inmates in their surrounding institutions, but also people in society as well. Books. I know inmates wrote movies that then publish numerous poetry all over the world. Life without parole is foolishness. It's a waste of human life, and I don't stand up and I don't represent it.